Howdy, Immortalium here, and today I'm going to be doing something a little different than normal. So, I was on social media recently, as I would expect most people are, and I saw that there was a certain video that was kind of going around that a lot of people were like freaking out about. People getting very angry, etc., etc. And it turned out that it is from a channel, this channel, TheAnimeMen, and specifically it's this video right here. We ranked the first episode of every year's most popular anime from 1961 to 2025. Now, I'm of the opinion that, people are allowed to have hot takes. But that must, of course, be backed up by, evidence and all that. I myself have some pretty hot takes when it comes to certain anime. Like, for instance, a lot of people are probably going to hate me for this, but I'm not a fan of Steins Gate. I'm not. I didn't enjoy the series. And I can explain to you, people will be asking me now, why I don't like the series. So, I do have hot takes of my own, but, I can at least explain them. I can go into detail, I can explain all of these thoughts. And I believe, as long as you can do that, you're allowed to have a subjective opinion. So I thought it might be interesting if we took a look at this video and kind of saw, their style, how they presented this information, what their takes were, whether they did a good job justifying, their attitudes towards it, etc., etc. Now, in terms of my experience with this stuff, I've never seen anything from this channel, so I don't know what their style is like at all. Secondly, I saw one clip on social media that was going around. It was, I believe, their reaction to Dear Brother. So, yeah, I saw a bit of that. And then I did see someone, had the tier list that they actually finished up with. I honestly can't remember too much. I remember there was, a lot of shonen at the very top, from what I remember. And it seemed like they were biased in favor of more recent anime compared to older ones. So, I don't remember the specifics, but I remember that much. And I guess the other thing that I should probably mention before we, start watching this is I'm curious what kind of criteria they used. So, for instance, they talk about every year's most popular anime. Did they use MAL? Did they use, TV ratings, which, I highly doubt that. Sales? What criteria did they use to determine what the most popular anime is of each year? But anyway, before we even get into the video, there is one thing that I'm immediately concerned about, and that is the length of the video. So we are talking over 60 episodes that they have to go through and to justify from 1961 to 2025. They have given themselves 26 and a half minutes to do this. For those of you who are capable of doing quick math, you will note that that is less than half a minute per episode. It's less. It's, I don't know, maybe 27 seconds, 25 seconds. It's very little. So I'm very skeptical of their ability to be able to communicate their opinions effectively through this. But, it is possible to do. So without any further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at specific sections. I'm going to give my thoughts on it. I'm going to fact check some information, and also I'm going to analyze their ability to communicate their thoughts. Anyway, without any further ado, let's go.
Today we're going through 100 years of anime history,
ranking the most popular anime from each year to decide once and for all
the best anime of the century.
We're starting with this.
It's on YouTube and it's 35 seconds long.
Ooh! That fight scene was cracked.
It was 30 seconds. It was about some sushi chef with octopus arms. That anime is F tier.
I'm going to stop here, folks. I don't know how much of this footage I'm keeping in, but a couple of things immediately that I'm taking notice of. So the first thing I want to point out is they said, 100 years. That is not anywhere close. It's closer to 50 years, just, a bit above it. And also this high energy channel. So, this explains the short length of the episode relative to what they're attempting to do. But I think one issue immediately that I'm seeing is that they haven't explained how things are the most popular yet. They've literally said we ranked the first episodes of every year's most popular anime. We've just been introduced to the first episode from 1961, and they haven't clarified why that is the most popular anime. Let me just quickly check the description and see if they actually explain down there. No, there's nothing in the description. It turns out there's a sponsorship, but they haven't actually explained how they've determined that this anime is the most popular anime of that year. So that's already a major issue. But anyway, let's continue on.
So, Tetsuan Adam, let's go. It's on YouTube.
Yo.
Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry. My bad, guys. That was Astro Boy.
Oh,
that was Astro
come
Boy.
on,
My
bruh.
bad.
Oh,
Okay.
you pressed the wrong one.
Why is it Astro Boy?
Why is Tetsuan Adam
It
is Astro Boy?
So I'm going to stop there again. Because first off, they haven't exactly done the best job of explaining why they've ranked those first two F tier. You know, they've given us a little bit of a, brief synopsis, I guess, of it, but they haven't gone into any depth, which I guess I should have been expecting right from the beginning. I'm hoping that that's a joke, that Tetsuan Atom, that they didn't know that that was Astro Boy. I'm not 100% about that. That could be authentic for all I know. Yeah, let's keep going anyway.
Literally just like, it's like, come on! So, Astro Boy from 1963.
I give it an absolute bottom of the barrel F tier.
F tier, bottom of F tier.
Okay. I'm starting to worry here that I don't have enough to go over. I don't know if there's enough substance here. So they've literally just watched the first kind of major anime series, in terms of television at least, like the first episode of Astro Boy, and they haven't really justified their thoughts on it. They seem to be, talking about the fact that it's very cartoony, like very Looney Tunes, and to some extent that is the case, because I mean, anime was very heavily influenced by Western animation. For instance, Osamu Tezuka, the creator of Astro Boy, he had a projector at home, and his father would bring him movies, like foreign animated movies, and he'd watch them. And he was a huge fan of, for instance, Bambi. That's a bit different to Looney Tunes, but he saw that movie so many times in the theater. So, I mean, I guess this is stuff that's, maybe people coming from anime today wouldn't be expecting, but it just seems odd to me that that's their kind of one bit of analysis of the episode, and then immediately we're moving on to Big X. It just seems strange.
It starts off with a looks-maxing white lion that rules a jungle, and immediately falls into a trap trying to save his wife and future kid, and then dies. Now after this, the lion's wife gives birth by the help of some rat doctors on a cruise ship, and gives birth to a white lion that suspiciously looks like a rat. Yeah, well, we're going D tier for that one.
Okay, so we have gotten out of the F tier. So a couple of things I took note of there. I hope I'm not stopping too often as well. Eventually I'm going to get to the point, I think, where I'm going to be skipping big chunks of this video, but I noticed that one of them was taking notes, and I kind of find that strange because they haven't really been going into any detail about, their thoughts. That is the biggest amount of discussion that they've done, but all they've done is, do a synopsis, do a little gag about, it might be, that. But they haven't explained, anything of what they liked or disliked really about it. They haven't broken it down at all. Why is it better than the first three, for instance? Like, what, is it less Looney Tunes? I'm supposed to take it, I guess? I was really hoping to get more substance out of this, more analysis, but might be barking up the wrong tree here.
We sat down and actually paid attention while watching this.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I think Jeremy died. Osumatsu-kun. Jeremy, what are we giving it?
Below Astro Boy, bottom of the bottom.
Bottom of the bottom of the bottom of F tier.
Okay, I'm probably gonna do big skips after this, but at this point I might sound like a bit of a broken record. So they're doing gags, of like, going comatose or whatever, and they're saying like, oh, this is bottom of the barrel. There's a guy in a dog suit. Haven't explained, for instance, they said it's below Astro Boy. Why is it below Astro Boy? No idea. They haven't communicated that to us at all.
Next anime we're watching is Lupin the Third.
Yeah, we recognize this character, and we're giving this anime a little bit more respect, so we're only gonna put it at 1.5 times speed.
Are Are they joking there? They're going to give him some respect, so they're going to play it at 1.5 speed. Is that a joke, or... Because I have seen some discussion on social media about that, of like watching of people watching anime at like, you know, quicker speeds, so they can go through it with it and all that stuff. Are they joking with this, or are they serious? Are they actually saying that they watched? Wait, are they saying they watched Lupin the Third at 1.5 times speed? I don't. They must have been watching the previous stuff faster? At least 2 times speed, maybe? I mean, things are paced for a reason. Okay, so I'm gonna say a couple of things at this point. Again, I'm unsure how much I'm keeping in. I have a notebook I was going to take notes about, and so far I haven't needed to take any notes because they haven't really given me of anything of substance. They haven't done a very good job of justifying their position, I think. I can see so far very easily why people lashed out at this video. Do people deserve, you know, do these people deserve to be, you know, hated? I don't know. I mean, hate is a very strong word. I mean, they're trying their best, I'm sure, to just, you know, progress their career. And I mean, the title is an appealing one. We rank the first episodes every year's most popular anime, but we are running into so many issues right off the bat. Again, I have to emphasize, they have not explained how they've determined that each anime is the most popular. Are they using MAL? Are they using IMDb? Are they going off of ratings, like, you know, air ratings, which I highly doubt because, you know, I'm sure a lot of the later ones will be late night anime, which wouldn't be the most popular of that year. And they have this recurring gag of people falling asleep. Then obviously that's meant to be a joke, you know. We've seen that kind of joke in a lot of media, you know, where someone's so bored that they fall asleep. But for this type of video, I think it's a total misfire. I don't know if it's like an ongoing gag of theirs. Again, this is the first time I've ever seen a video from them, so I don't know. I don't necessarily know what their style is. I'm kind of getting some of their style, but that's mostly because, you know, I've seen other video styles like this. In terms of, you know, the more unique aspects of them, I don't know.
Candy, candy, candy. Hey, 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 hey.
Yeah, that shit's trash.
I might keep that one in just because I think that's quite representative of the analysis that they're giving in this video.
Jeremy, what are we watching?
We're watching Urusei Yatsura.
This is the first Gooner anime.
This is going in S tier.
This is going at the top of S tier, Jeremy.
I'm gonna lose my mind. My brain is
Interesting
rotting,
that
guys.
they must
Watch
like their
such
fan service,
trash
though.
anime.
I just want some Oremo. I want some High School DxD. Please. I'm putting it at D tier. It doesn't deserve to be those.
Again, I'm going to include that clip, I think, because I think that's quite representative of what I was saying a moment ago about, you know, their taste in anime and what they look for in anime.
Although the pacing is pretty trash, we put it at 2 times speed, it was still fire.
I'm going to say I'm inclined to believe them at this point that they are actually watching some of this stuff sped up. And that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign at all.
Touch looked amazing, you know what I mean? We had potential, we're like, you know, maybe finally something that can give us something we were wanting, and there's no subtitles.
So we just don't understand anything. Touch is going D tier.
Okay, I'm gonna raise some questions here. They determined somehow that in 1985, Touch is the best series. Most popular anime, sorry. I should say the most popular anime of that year. And they went up to look up an episode. They didn't find it with subtitles. And they still watched it and ranked it. I presume from the way they were talking that they can't speak Japanese or understand Japanese. That's just an assumption. I could be completely wrong with that, but I would assume that since they were looking for English subtitles that, you know, they'd want that. I'm kind of confused why they went with Touch still. Wouldn't it be better maybe to go for a series that they could find with subtitles or in English? I don't know. I'm just quite confused by a lot of stuff. Like, why did they even bother including Touch at that point?
Goku with a tail. I've never seen that before. Goku with his You know, you just gotta watch it.
This one was booty.
I would personally say that this goes top of C.
Top? Yeah, you know, just get in C. Don't put it in top or don't put it bottom. Just get in C.
So before we go on with that, so I don't know if they were serious about the gag of like stopping the episode, if they actually did stop the episode, but they gave it a C. Again, there's this feeling of contradiction watching them, where it feels almost like the gag is more important than the opinion. Because of that, it's hard for me to take what they're saying seriously in any shape or form. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's how they thought this video would be received. At this point, you kind of have to ask yourself, why are you watching this video? And I know that's a very harsh thing to say, but they're not being honest or clear at the very least about how they're ranking these anime, about what they like and dislike. And it just feels like they're trying to make you laugh with these kind of, you know, gags more so than anything else. Again, I'm confused as to how City Hunter, which they claim that they couldn't finish the first episode of, is, you know, in C tier. On all these other ones that I don't think they've done any E tier. I don't know if that's even a tier that they have. D tier and F tier stuff they've been able to finish apparently. And apparently watching it at, you know, 2 times speed or 1.5 times speed or whatever.
Yeah, this show is a solid B tier, okay?
I will say that they seem to be a fan of Rumiko Takahashi's work, which is quite interesting to me. Might show how influential Rumiko Takahashi has been on modern anime in terms of, you know, the fan service stuff, the comedic slapstick, all that kind of stuff.
Wouldn't say Yatsura is forever cemented as the greatest thing of all time. The aesthetic of it was actually like literally like made me shiver me timbers. I'm not even joking.
Oh, greatest.
Straight shiver me timbers.
Greatest.
Nadia, Secret of the Blue Water, whatever it's called. I'm going A tier.
Let's do it.
Guys, I'm sorry. No.
Wait.
No.
Sorry. This is important to just clarify quickly. So what confuses me there, this might just be an error on their part, but if it is, it's an odd one to make. We open up with them saying Urusei Yatsura is great. Now, maybe they meant, like, it's called Fushigi no Umi no Nadia, which is Nadia's Secret of Blue Water, anime that I would definitely recommend, except for one particular arc within it, a very infamous arc. And maybe they were talking about that, but if that's the case, they were talking about it being, like, you know, one of the best ever, and they put an A tier. I because of the way that was constructed, I honestly don't know if they were just going back and talking about Urusei Yatsura for some reason, or if they meant this, Fushigi no Umi. I don't know. I'm a bit confused by that. Again, the notebook has thus far not been needed. I haven't really needed to fact check anything, I don't think, and I haven't really needed to take any notes because, again, we're dealing with very surface level stuff here.
Guys, Sailor Moon.
Hunter's wife.
One thing I will commend there at the very least is very surface level, but I will commend it. It's just mentioning Hunter x Hunter's wife, meaning that they are aware that the mangaka who did Hunter x Hunter and also Yu Yu Hakusho, they haven't actually mentioned the fact that it's the same guy. So I'm wondering, do they even know that about Yu Yu Hakusho? But they know that he's married to created Sailor Moon. So I'll give them props for that. It's not a very high bar, but it's something at least. It's some kind of knowledge.
I think One Piece is one of those shows where it gets better later on.
I can't deny that the first episode of One Piece is pretty good. You get the introduction to Luffy. You get Kobe, what's his name? The pink-haired guy? Yeah. Overall, I'd give the first episode of One Piece A tier.
You see, that's almost an acceptable review there. Like, that is, you know, all they need to do is just go into a little bit more depth about the animation and, you know, maybe some of the actual story of the first episode. But, you know, just add those elements in and you've got yourself a decent little review of the first episode of One Piece here. So that's something that was kind of needed for all of these series right from the get-go. And I suspect as we go on further and further and looking at the, you know, the time down below, unless there's some big section right at the end, like, they're probably going to be going into a little more detail from this point onwards. That's something that, you know, I mean, I highly doubt they're going to see this video, but if they do, like, that is something that I've probably taken into account for in the future if they want to do something like this again. This kind of energy here is kind of what's needed throughout the whole video.
Inuyasha! Look, the fight scenes look good, but it's in Spanish only, so only I'm gonna understand it.
Yeah, if I'm being completely honest with the show, like after watching all these shows, I was already super exhausted from watching anime, and this came on, and it was in freaking Spanish, so I couldn't even understand it. When I watched it, it was garbage. I'm being honest. I'm gonna put it in D tier.
Okay. This comes back to a similar point to earlier. Which series was it now? It was Touch, I believe, that they didn't have subtitles for, and they're playing this episode of Inuyasha, and it's in Spanish only. Inuyasha isn't exactly a niche show. In fact, I'm pretty sure it should be available on some streaming services. I know back in the day it was definitely available on Hulu. I don't actually know if these people are American now that I think about it, so I don't know if Hulu's actually an option for them. But still, it shouldn't be that hard to find, you know, the English dub of the first episode, the subtitled version of the first episode. I'm not quite understanding why they're having these troubles. You know, maybe with something like Touch, maybe it's a little harder, you know, because it's a little older. But for Inuyasha, there's really no excuse. Like, I have a copy of the first season of Inuyasha, or first box set of Inuyasha outside, so I could actually just go out right now and watch the first episode of Inuyasha in English, dubbed or subbed. I'm a little confused as to why they're struggling with these elements. Like, what is actually happening? These people, they have loads of subscribers. Anime seems to be a significant thing in their life, which I'll get onto that point in a moment. So I'm just wondering why, for instance, they don't have the Blu-ray of Inuyasha or a DVD, like, you know, a hard copy of some kind. It's just confusing from that perspective. Or, you know, if they're, you know, watching series, you know, on streaming services, like, presumably it shouldn't be that difficult to find Inuyasha. But they've also been taking it from other sources. We've seen that they've watched a couple of them on YouTube, particularly the earlier stuff. I saw the Kiss Anime logo there a moment ago on one of them. I think it might have been Heidi. So they are pirating some of this stuff, you know, accessing some of this content illegally. And, you know, I won't really comment on that aspect here. There's other issues that need to be addressed here. But if they have access to all of that stuff, I don't understand how they couldn't even find an English version of Inuyasha. Like, how do you struggle with that? Oh, hang on. Before we go on with Naruto here, what they just said reminded me of the thing I wanted to address a moment ago. So one of them mentioned that they were tired of watching anime, and I'm a little confused if your channel is TheAnimeMen. How do you get tired of watching anime? I mean, I think anyone would get tired of watching anime if you, like, were watching it for, like, continuously for ages, and particularly if you were watching, you know, like, low quality stuff. I almost said a genre there, a modern kind of genre that is in a bit too many anime at the moment. But, you know, there are even good examples of that one. So I'm a bit confused as to why they're saying that they were tired of watching it. I don't know, that's just a kind of a little note. I am very concerned at this point about the lack of substantial feedback and criticism that I'm able to give in this situation, but again, we're kind of dealing with pretty surface level stuff here in most regards. They did try a little bit with Helsing, I think, which, like, they would bring up the cinematography and the gothic style, but again, they failed to kind of address the story, the characters, what it was that they didn't like.
We got Mushishi. I thought it was paced extremely well. It was written really well. Yep. And the music was just like the cherry on top. It was a really emotional first episode. Overall, this is definitely something that I am for sure watching. I think it's top of A tier. Absolute banger.
Can I just say that I'm actually kind of shocked that they liked Mushishi so much? Like, Mushishi is a great series. I want to put that out there immediately. Like, I really like it. But it's got this slower pace to it that I thought wouldn't gel with them. So I'm a bit surprised that they ended up enjoying it. From what I can gather so far, I feel like they want very fast pacing with a lot of their media. And so having this more kind of slower, contemplative series, it speak to them, like it's kind of surprising. I'll just say that right out of the gate. Like I'm a bit surprised that they enjoyed Mushishi.
Gurren Lagann. The first episode of Gurren Lagann starts with main characters Simone and Kamina, which is located beneath the surface in some tunnel. Eventually, both of the main characters discover a way out through the help of a large monster and a very alluring character in Yoko Littner. This, along with one of the best messages in anime, clearly brings this anime at the top of the A tier category.
So again, something I want to point out here is, like, they could have gone more into depth about, you know, the pacing of this episode, the animation of this episode, the way that it, you know, sets up relationships and all that kind of stuff. But like this quick summary that they gave is something that again should be applied to pretty much all these episodes, in my personal opinion. Like they are missing this fundamental summary of these first episodes, because, you know, not everyone has seen all these first episodes. I haven't seen all these first episodes, and I'm sure most of the people watching this haven't seen all these first episodes. So, you know, it helps sometimes for them to just say, like, what actually happened. I have actually seen Gurren Lagann. For other series, you know, like, you know, what is the plot? Like, that would be very helpful if they're going to discuss whether they liked it or disliked it. Like, for instance, they mentioned the first episode of Detective Conan. Having read some of the manga, I can guess, you know, what the plot of that first episode was, but besides that, I have no idea necessarily what they saw. Like, I'm just kind of making a guess based on what I read in the manga. For all I know, it could be quite different. So yes, every so often we get this kind of glimmer of something, of like, you know, like an aspect that they've gotten right. Like here, they've got the, you know, first episode quick plot summary correct. A couple of other times they've done a decent job of like talking about the animation or the acting or, you know, all those elements, but they just need to bring them all together, and they need to do it for every single episode of this. And again, I don't necessarily think this is the type of video that they were intending to make. I think with this like, they seem very focused on comedy in general, so, or at least trying to be funny, and having this fast pace. So I don't think that they necessarily want to like slow down and to, you know, talk about, you know, in some depth each particular episode. But I do want to point that out, that this kind of, when I see these glimmers, it makes me think of what this video could have been.
I feel like we've seen so many romance and slice of lives that are kind of exactly the same.
Because of that, we'll be putting it in
C tier.
Okay, so about that, like, for instance, like, that is... Okay, so first off, very understandable criticism here, in the sense that, you know, like, there is a lot of slice of life romance series out there. And so saying that, you know, you've seen something a bunch of times, of course, that's going to impact your opinion. But again, they failed to kind of address anything within actual Toradora itself. Basically, they've just kind of summed it up as being just another romance anime. And for instance, like, they're going to go on to Fairy Tail here. And from what I remember in the ranking that I saw, the tier list that I saw, I think they're going to give Fairy Tail a pretty high mark. I can't remember if they're going to put in A or S. They, like, for instance, they've been watching a bunch of fighting shows, a bunch of shonen shows, you know, like shonen that are set in fantasy worlds and are, you know, like having to fight each other and all that kind of stuff. So kind of my question, I guess, is like, why is that principle not being necessarily applied to those? Is it because those are, you know, things that they actually like to watch, this kind of shonen action adventure kind of series? And maybe they're not as fond of the romance series, so they're less tolerant of seeing something similar. Even though I would probably argue that Toradora, from what I remember seeing, is quite, you know, distinct compared to some of the other romance anime that I've seen. Yeah, again, I'm just kind of wondering why they're not applying this same kind of idea across multiple genres.
Now we're on Fairy Tail,
Oh, yeah, we
a
gotta-
classic. Fairy Fairy Tail, first episode done. I never watched Fairy Tail before.
I watched it.
I would watch Fairy Tail after that. I give it A tier. I don't think it's an S tier.
I think
first
it's an A
episode.
tier. I don't think it's better than Death Note.
Well, but I mean, I'm just giving my opinion on Fairy Tail at this point. I'm not the big fan of Fairy Tail as a whole. I thought from what I remember the first episode was okay, you know, in establishing like some of the characters and the world and that kind of stuff. Some of my other issues particularly came on later, so I'm not going to judge them for that. But again, they haven't really gone into any depth about, you know, why they liked Fairy Tail there. Did they like the animation? Did they like the characters? Did they like the action sequences? I'm not sure. I honestly don't know. I just know that they like it, really. And that's the biggest issue easily so far with this video is the fact that they give these opinions and I have no idea how they actually like came up to them.
Waiting for this for a really long time. We're finally at 2011, and you want to know what that means, Jeremy?
Thought it might be this one, all right.
I've personally never seen Hunter x Hunter. Sam is one of the biggest glazers of Hunter x Hunter, so I'll let him take the reins for this one.
Guys,
What makes it so good is that it doesn't have all like the cheesy anime tropes. That's what
Hunter x Hunter, as far as the first episode goes, it's such a great start, so I think it's gonna have to go A tier.
They kind of parodied a bit of what I'm actually asking from them. They did the sped up thing and then like a pause afterwards. It signified like, what are you doing? But the thing is, you know, that was them going into detail. For all I heard right from the beginning, maybe they were just talking about gibberish, but they were saying like it doesn't apply, you know, the shonen tropes don't apply. I love Hunter x Hunter. There's definitely some shonen tropes being applied in Hunter x Hunter. Like for instance, the absent father. Like that's something you see in so many shonen series. And you see it right out the gate in Hunter x Hunter. Now, there's a lot of other aspects of Hunter x Hunter that are quite unique and different from a lot of other shonen series. But it's certainly not, you know, absent of some of those tropes. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. To sum it up, you know, even if I didn't agree with that specific statement, at least it was the beginning of a discussion. And they kind of just shut that down right out the gate. Almost kind of in a manner that was very dismissive of it. A little frustrating because that is kind of what I wanted them to go to, and here they're essentially making fun of the concept of doing that. So I had to do a double take of that because listen here.
On our last episode, 2024.
Now, it says up here 2023. They say 2024. They also say it's the last episode they're going to be watching. So there's multiple issues here. First off, I actually don't know when Freerun the anime first started. I know it's new, but I haven't actually watched the anime yet. This says up to 2025. Now, I guess 2025 isn't over, so maybe that's why they're not including the year 2025, but you would think that, so they should just say up to 2024 in that case. Secondly, why is this 2023? I'm a bit confused about that. Again, there's these little inconsistencies which make you think that they were just trying to get this video out as quick as possible for whatever reason. I don't quite understand. Okay, so maybe I was wondering this. It seems like they might be like alternating who's watching what. So for those two in particular, that was their last series episode that they were going to watch. So yeah, maybe it's divided up by that way, but they didn't establish that at all at the beginning, which is part of why I was a bit confused.
We're on the last anime.
Okay, they are going up to 2025.
We are finally at current times, and the most popular anime of this year so far is Sakamoto Days. And the first episode.
So again, I'm just going to bring up the fact that they haven't clarified how they've determined that it's the most popular. So yeah, I know I said that already. I just want to emphasize it, particularly since we're getting near the end of the video.
Alright, we just got done watching all of our anime, so now we're gonna decide what's the best anime first episode of the century. It's gotta be
Attack on Titan released in 2013.
Okay, me and Jeremy came to the decision that Tokyo Ghoul released in 2015.
Death Note in 2006.
Okay, now we're gonna all debate what's the best first episode and come to an agreement of what it is.
Okay, before we go on further with this, I like this idea of them like just having these opinions and, you know, just saying like, you know, this group thinks this episode is the best, and this group thinks this episode is best. And they're about to have a discussion and a debate, but I feel like, again, this should be included in the actual video. But again, that isn't their style. That's not necessarily what they want to do.
Alright, thank you guys for watching. Bye, subscribe.
Okay, that was a very quick end to the video. Just to quickly summarize some of my thoughts on that. So I can get why some people were frustrated by this, but also I do wonder what it is that prompted people to see this, without seeing any of the other stuff. It doesn't seem like it's like a particularly super popular episode of theirs, like a video of theirs, compared to some of the other stuff they've done. Like their most popular video has 40 million views. This video, as of right now, has 277,000. I'm not sure what it is that prompted people to see this and to comment on this particular one. But I think here, in my personal opinion, we have a major clash of expectation, both on the part of the people making this video and also the people watching this video. So when people see this title, we rank the first episode of every year's most popular anime, which, that's a very enticing title, I think, for some people at least. The fact that it's only the first episode is a problem, but, that's besides the point at the moment. People go into this and they want probably some depth, at least, to the discussion of each episode, their likes, their dislikes, and all that. And, if they have a hot take or two, that's perfectly fine as long as they can justify it. But the people making this video, they don't, that wasn't necessarily what they were aiming for, I don't think. I think they were aiming for this to be comedic, kind of a funny, gag-based watch, and I'm not exactly sure why they chose to do this particular video with that kind of mindset. Because, if you can say one thing about people and anime, like, it's that people love to discuss in great depth, each aspect of, like an episode of anime, a series of anime, have debates, discussions. Why they seem so hesitant to lean into that with this type of video, it'll probably be in, stark contrast to a lot of their other videos. Maybe they're afraid of, alienating their fan base, which is a legitimate concern. I think anyone who has any kind of following is concerned about that at some point when they come up with an idea of, like, will my audience be tolerant enough of this, even though it's quite different? That is, I think, the biggest issue here. And then, as for the video itself, if you like that style of comedy, you'll get something out of that video, of course. But if you're looking for any depth or explanation behind these episodes, you're not going to get that here. And again, I found this quite repetitive. I literally was ready to write notes here and to do fact checking, and I didn't feel the need to at all, because the stuff we were dealing with was so surface level. Perhaps I should have kind of expected that from the runtime. They were packing in over 60 episodes. They were giving each one like less than half a minute. Like it seems kind of insane when you put it that way. Now, could someone make this type of video with that time span and, do it in a different way that's, maybe more, discussion friendly? I'm not exactly sure, but maybe. But this was a very ambitious type of video for them to do. I think they were out of their element, at least in terms of who they brought in with this title. I'm actually curious, if we go back to their channel, let me just quickly. So is this the first time that they've decided to rank something? I'm quite curious about this. They're doing a lot of this, typical, I hesitate to call it clickbait, but very appealing looking to a lot of people, very kind of surface level kind of stuff. And I don't really see any kind of attempt to engage anime in a critical way with any of these other videos. They're more kind of, meant to be comedic and jokey. I don't see any attempt to critically analyze any of this stuff or critically engage, which is, I think, part of why they ran into issues. Okay, maybe something like this, I'm looking at this video, the most underrated anime ever. Maybe that's an attempt to engage critically with this, but it's also worth noting that this was one of their less popular videos, so maybe that put them off of attempting to kind of like analyze these videos to point out recommendations. I'm not exactly sure. At first I was going to say that I wasn't sure what anime series that was, and then I actually just read the katakana at the bottom. This is Golden Time, isn't it? And, you know, kudos to, you know, attempting to bring attention to what you feel might be an underrated anime. The problem is I don't think their style necessarily matches up with critical analysis. And I think you can see some attempts at, you know, engaging maybe on some of the more surface level stuff, but like they have the most overrated animes of all time. They have the top 10 anime there, which, I mean, looking at that, very standard stuff. You see One Piece, you see a fan service laden show like High School DxD. So there were some attempts early on in critically engaging, but again, these seem to be some of their lowest performing videos. Yeah, like relative to like the other stuff that they do. So maybe that was off-putting to them. But then if that's the case, I do wonder why they decided to come back and do this type of video. It's just confusing to me from that perspective. Now, I want to just take a brief look at this next video they did, Fake Anime Fans, which is probably a response to this video over here and, you know, the criticism that it received, which is kind of interesting to me because, again, it's not as if this video was, like, it's one of their better performing videos, but it's not like a huge major thing for them. But anyway, I'm going to take a quick glance at this. If I see anything that's worth noting, I'll include in the video. If not, I'll just give my brief thoughts.
This is probably A or S. The D tier.
What?
Goku with a tail. I've never seen that before.
What? Oh!
Okay, so I just want to slow down with this, actually. So even if the original video itself didn't get major viewership, it does seem like there were people reacting to the video. I think I saw, I think that was Aki that I just saw a moment ago. Aki Dearest, I think. I'm not super familiar with her work, so I can't be certain with that. That might be one reason why maybe they felt that it was more viewed than it was, because other people were reacting to it, and, you know, people were watching their videos. I just wanted to bring that up quick. That is worth noting.
These self-proclaimed anime fans. Maybe don't make a tier list video.
Okay, so that was TheAnimeMen. I haven't seen, you know, any of the other his response to the video, but I mean, that's kind of the question I was asking. Like, it's like, this doesn't seem to be a thing that meshes with their style, so I'm kind of wondering why they even did it in the first place. Maybe they'll explain it here. Maybe, I'm not sure if they're going to, like, be apologetic about it or dig in to their opinions. I'm not exactly sure.
We aren't here to defend ourselves. The video we made was just outright garbage, and every person critiquing us is 1000% valid, and honestly, we deserve all the backlash that's coming to us. Let's just be honest.
Okay, so they very quickly have acknowledged that the video they made wasn't good, which is interesting. I'm curious to see how they're going to justify like what's going on and all that kind of stuff.
So not only was the entire concept of the video bad, but just the way we went about it was also terrible. We completely disrespected older anime by playing it in 2x speed and just making really bad jokes. And we didn't actually give a proper insight and analysis to these older anime that actually deserved one.
And not knowing that Goku had a tail.
And on top of that, the way we framed the video, especially the thumbnail, made it seem like we're doing an analysis when in reality, all we did was bash these shows for no reason.
The reason why the video turned out the way it did is because we were just downright lazy. And in all honesty, we just wanted to upload the video and meet a deadline.
We wanted to get the video over with, and instead of actually putting in any effort whatsoever, we kind of just resorted to rage baiting and really bad jokes.
Okay, I think I've seen enough of that video to get an idea. So they acknowledge some of the criticisms that I've had. It's a bit surprising to me how willing they are to talk about that the video is not good and that they were rushing to try to get out in time. Kind of brings into question some of their other content, I feel. But, you know, I guess it is a possibility that this could be an exception rather than the rule. To sum it up, because I wasn't able to get as in-depth as I wanted with it, the big issue here was expectations, I think. They noted the thumbnail, and they noted how people were going in expecting some discussion about each episode that they watch. I kind of suspected not just, you know, the controversy seeing it on social media, but also because of the runtime. I was thinking, how much time can you actually give each episode? That clearly wasn't what they were going for. Because of that, they just ended up really, really annoying people. In terms of my recommendations to them, I mean, what can I recommend to them? Like, if they tried to do this type of video again in the future, to be more analytical about it, to kind of break down the elements of each episode of to why you gave them this particular score. Like, for instance, they mentioned Astro Boy there. They gave Astro Boy an F, and the only thing I remember them mentioning about it is the fact that it had this goofiness to it, like a Looney Tunes-esque goofiness, and then to give it an F. And you're kind of wondering yourself, why not D tier? Like, there must have been other elements that you disliked about it. It's such an institution, Astro Boy, and that shouldn't necessarily mean, just because something's influential, shouldn't necessarily mean that you should give it, a pass for like some issues that you might see in it today. But certainly when it comes to that kind of stuff, if something is influential, you have to go into more depth about and justify why you have a certain opinion. I was hoping to be a bit more analytical with this video, and I'm curious to see how this video is going to come out in the end, given how repetitious some of my advice has been, some of my thoughts. I do hope that they can maybe come back to this kind of topic someday and maybe be a bit more in-depth about it, a bit more analytical. But I also don't know if that's their style. And if it isn't their style, I don't think they should try to do this in the first place. That's my personal opinion on it. I was hoping to be more analytical, but wasn't able to do that. So anyway, hopefully you folks have enjoyed watching this video. And if people are interested in seeing more content like this, I would hope maybe someday, like, if I do more of this in the future, that maybe I could be more analytical, break things down more, do some more fact-checking. But with this video, I didn't really need to do that. The issues were kind of right there. Anyway, hopefully you folks have enjoyed this video. And if you are interested at all in seeing, future stuff, future kind of analyses, one thing that I would love to do, actually, if anyone is still watching this video at this point, is recommend to me some of my older videos to analyze. I would kind of love to do that, to like go back, take a look at some of the things I said or some of the opinions I had, and to see if they've changed, and maybe give some advice on like how I could improve certain things, etc., etc. That could be very interesting. You could also just have me react to some other stuff if you want, if you think that I'm able to go in depth to it and analyze it. But anyway, yeah, so that's my thoughts overall. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye bye.